When tragedy strikes, it's kind of ironic, really. I didn't really expect anything like this to happen, but what it did show me is this is the best time to reflect and not be too focused on everything around you. It's a bit difficult to say that when there can be financial complications and then emotional complications that could lead one to being impaired. I'm not in the second situation at hand, but I'm really looking at when tragedy truly strikes, how do you deal with it? How do you cope and how do you figure out what to do and how to maneuver? For me, we'll start with really how kind of everything started. It was more so just not being satisfied in where I am, at least in the work life portion of my existence. When I look at my job, I was more so focused on being able to learn and being able to develop a career that can truly lead me closer to my musical dreams, we could say. And within the field, I learned that there's a lot of useful information. There's a lot of cool stuff that I can learn. However, the environment that I had, I was limited greatly. Despite the fact I had someone who was a veteran, quote unquote veteran, who had about a decade of experience. And then I had someone who had about 5 years of experience along with him. This was a situation where neither of them were really specialists in anything. They were knowledgeable in some areas. You know, each individual had their own strengths, but it showed me that as I sat down and I worked with these two individuals in particularly, it's not that they lacked skill, it's that they lacked interest. You know, and I believe as someone who works on a lot of different things that I'm really interested in, I become more skilled at them, right? So that for me is something that I saw was a quick disconnect in that environment. And then as I moved further down the chain, you found a lot of individuals who just didn't enjoy the environment and a lot of the talent left. And so I ended up being in an environment where I had a lot of new individuals with me who were still not really interested in the field. And I had one other individual who I started with, and he was there for about a few months at that time. He was pretty knowledgeable, but he came from that specific background. So I was lucky to have one person, but even with that one person I worked with, their time in the field was limited to what they could teach me. So I found myself in this power struggle of how much more information and skill can I gain in this resource limited environment or knowledge limited environment. This led to a lot of, I would say, disdain in the workplace, because for me, the goal was to take a role where I can truly improve. And I found out very quickly, not only within that environment, but as I continued forward through the role, that a lot of people were very straightforward about the lack of knowledge within this organization. They were very straightforward about the lack of skills that are actually able to be brought to the forefront and how long it takes really to just build a career within that specific organization. A lot of people told me, you need to go somewhere else if you're truly looking to do this as a professional. And I see that within the environment that I was in, they effectively wanted to remove me or remove themselves from me. And I see that within this space, I'm very glad, because I was very tired of an environment where you don't have individuals who are truly knowledgeable. And for me, the biggest tragedy of this is there were individuals who wanted me to lose for them to keep power. The tragedy that I've experienced in this place is individuals are more interested in cutting you down to keep themselves consistent. It's a lot easier for the waters to remain still than to rock the boat to see reasonable change. I can't be upset at that. But what I can do is focus on utilizing this time to reflect on finding exactly what it is that I was looking for. Not only a place where I have individuals who show a real interest and a real competency within the work that's being performed, but are actually interested within what is being done. Because if one person is truly interested, that shows a big difference. I remember in this environment that I was not very fond of, there were small things that I did that I found others noticed and they were big deals to them, but to me, it was the smallest thing in the world. To me, it was so insignificant. These are things that I've been doing, I'd say, since about middle school. Just to show the longevity of how minuscule of an action I was doing, to see the change and how other people responded not only to me, but the actions that I took. And outside of the actions of being in an environment where you're not truly appreciated, sometimes you find yourself feeling unappreciated in a relationship. Ironically, I ended up having a situation that happened about the same time where the other person was like, I would like to take some space. And I'm not really going to get too deep into the reasoning as to why. Personally, I think they were more personal reasons for the other person. But for me, I've realized within this time, at least looking at why they chose to remove themselves, it's led me to focusing more so on reflecting. Why is everything choosing to remove itself from me? And I understand that I'm at the center of every single thing that happens in my life. This does not mean that there were no critical points or actions that I took that led to these, I would say, specific events taking place. But I've more so focused on what it means for me now that it's happened, as opposed to what could I have done to possibly retain these particular relationships or experiences. And I believe the main thing here is that being able to take this time to reflect as to what it is that I'm really looking for and what it is that I really need in my life is the most critical factor at this moment. I'm not upset about a job that I wasn't really, I'll be honest, happy with. I love the work. I love the people. I love the environment outside of the individuals or specific individuals that I had to work with. But it doesn't change the fact that just because there are certain good aspects of something, if it doesn't work as a whole, it's not working as a whole. And with the fact that a job or an employer is replaceable, why sit down and keep something that doesn't work as a whole when I can find something that works as a whole? The funny part is, when you look at relationships, though, that's not necessarily, or in an ideal world, that's not necessarily something that can be, I would say, replaceable. I don't look at people as being replaceable. I don't believe that relationships are replaceable. Like, you can meet a woman who's about your mom's age, but she's not your mom, right? And it looks very different for everyone's life experiences. But regarding the relationship aspect of it, what does this mean now? Did this person remove themselves because there were things that I did? Did this person remove themselves because there was things that they needed? Those are things that you can sit down and toss around in your mind the entire time. But the most important aspect of why the person chose to remove themselves is now giving yourself the time to see what is it that you need and what is it that you're looking for within this moment. I realized for me, them removing themselves is not a bad thing. Quite frankly, I don't really have much to say. It's more so, I have my own personal experiences or point of view where I feel that though that decision made me respond in a way where I'm like, I'm not really sure what to say or what to do going forward, but I do understand that there are several things that led to this choice, and I have to accept the fact that you wanted that choice. You can talk about things with people and you can discuss things with them, but at the end of the day, just because you had a discussion doesn't necessarily mean that the other person wanted that choice or wanted that for the totality of the relationship. But you have to understand individuals are individuals and they're going to do what they want to do despite stating that there's a union, you know. Hey, it is what it is. But the most important part is just accepting the fact that another person making their own choice does not stop you from making your own choice. You don't have to be focused on that relationship because they decided to step away. You can now focus on yourself as an individual and say, what matters going forward? It doesn't mean that the relationship is necessarily over in the context of you two having contact per se, not necessarily romance or however the relationship may look like for you and the other individual at play, but focusing on what choices can you now make that are most conducive for you, because the other person made the choice that was most conducive for them. And for me, I'm going to accept that. And with that being said, I'm going to make my own choice. That makes the most sense for me. But when tragedy strikes, I believe the best thing to do is to sit down, remain calm, and set a plan of action. But most importantly, focus on yourself. Focus on your next steps and what really matters for you. Because if you are not focused on you, who else will? Most importantly, everything has now given you the chance to take the time and reflect on what to do next because you don't have them anymore. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. I appreciate you guys very much, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Last of them. Now for the boy.